Hello, my name is Sonia Bishop, and this is my presentation. My presentation is on the epidemiology of type 2 diabetes. What is diabetes? Type 2 diabetes is a chronic condition characterized by insulin resistance. Insulin resistance is when the body doesn't use the insulin the pancreas produces, which results in high blood sugar. The symptoms of type 2 diabetes develop over time and mostly get diagnosed until middle or older age. The symptoms are frequent urination, frequent hunger, unintended weight loss, fatigue, and the numb or tingling of hands or feet. Type 2 diabetes is diagnosed when the A1C test reads 6.5% or higher for 2 to 3 months, or when providers may do a random blood sugar test, fasting blood sugar test, or oral glucose tolerance test. Why should it be studied? Even though there is type 1 diabetes, type 2 diabetes is more common as it is 90 to 95% of all diabetes cases. As of 2021, diabetes is the eighth leading cause of death in the US. In 2019, 11.3% of the US population, or 37.3 million Americans, had diabetes, while 8.5 million Americans were undiagnosed. Type 2 diabetes can also lead to other health complications if left untreated. For example, heart disease, kidney disease, and skin conditions. The history of diabetes goes back to BC with the ancient Egyptians, Indians, and Greeks describing diabetes as having sweet urine. It was later found that the sweet urine is due to excess sugar in the blood and urine. Joseph von Mering and Oskar Minkowski in 1889 both found that the pancreas plays a role in diabetes by removing the pancreas from diabetic dogs who died shortly after. Sir Edward Albert Sharpe-Sheffer in 1910 discovered that the lack of insulin resulted in diabetes. In 1921, insulin was made and discovered as the first treatment of diabetes by Sir Frederick Grant Banting and Charles Herbert Best. It was not until 1936 that researchers was able to tell the difference between type 1 and type 2 diabetes. The prevalence of type 2 diabetes. Now, in the US, according to the American Diabetes Association, as stated before, about 37.3 million or 11.3% of people in the United States have diagnosed diabetes in 2018. When it comes to age, adults who are older than 65 years old represent 25.9% of the type 2 diabetes cases. Native Americans have the highest prevalence with type 2 diabetes as it affects 14.5% of the population. In Illinois, the average prevalence was approximately 9.1% between counties. The researchers found that there is an association between the number of healthcare centers and the prevalence of type 2 diabetes per county. Rural areas had higher prevalence of type 2 diabetes due to less healthcare centers. Incidence of type 2 diabetes. In the US, as stated before, 1.4 million people are being diagnosed with diabetes each year. The crude incidence rate is to be 5.9 per 1,000 persons in 2019. The age-adjusted incidence rate is 5.7 per 1,000 persons in 2019. In Illinois, the crude prevalence of type 2 diabetes from 2011 to 2019 had increased from 9.7 to 11.3% respectively. The highest crude prevalence within the age group was adults older than 65 years old with a percent of 24.2. When it comes to mortality rates, they do not distinguish between type 1 and type 2 diabetes in death certificates. Since type 2 diabetes can lead to health complications like strokes, kidney failures, and heart attacks, diabetes is a contributing factor to the causal event of death. This then leads to diabetes to be underreported in death certificates. The cause of type 2 diabetes is complex because there's a number of factors that contribute to having diabetes. The main biological cause is insulin resistance. There have been studies that genes play a role in getting diabetes. However, the researchers want to reiterate that multiple factors like genetic variations, health, and lifestyle can impact the risk of type 2 diabetes. The non-preventable risk factors of diabetes are age, race, and family members with type 2 diabetes. And the preventable risk factors of diabetes is weight, diet, being physically inactive, and being diagnosed with prediabetes. For future research, the end goal is to find a cure for diabetes. One researcher named Laura Cristina Alonso is studying genes that increase the potential risk of developing diabetes. And another researcher named Juan Dominguez Vendala is working on a potential therapy for diabetes. New technology like the automated insulin delivery system called AID, also known as the artificial pancreas, is used to manage diabetes. As stated before, type 2 diabetes is a chronic disease caused by insulin resistance. Many factors contribute to diabetes, like increasing age, being overweight and obesity, no physical activity, and being diagnosed with prediabetes. The signs and symptoms of type 2 diabetes are frequent hunger, unattended weight loss, frequent urination, fatigue, and numb or tingling of the hands or feet. Type 2 diabetes increases the risk of other serious health complications, especially if it's left untreated. Americans diagnosed with type 2 diabetes represent 11.9% of the US population, with 25.9% of them being 65 years old or older. The average prevalence of type 2 diabetes in Illinois is 9.1%. The mortality rates are underreported because diabetes may not be the cause of death, but it is a contributing factor. And that's the end of my presentation. Thank you.